Krista sent a lingerie selfie to her ex while sitting across from me, sipping a $20 glass of Pinot and pretending to care about my cholesterol levels. That was the moment something snapped. Not loud, not theatrical, just clean, like a pressure valve hissing shut. She laughed as the photo sent, thumb still on her screen, and without looking up said, "He's just helping me with work outfits, babe. You don't understand how cutthroat fashion is now." Then finally met my eyes. He's a consultant, for real. Don't go all FBI. That glint in her eyes wasn't for me. It hadn't been for a while. But this was different. Too smug, too rehearsed, like she was enjoying the lie more than she feared being caught. I used to think betrayal would feel like fire. Turns out it's cold, clinical, surgical even. So I nodded, took a bite of my risotto, and replied, "Oh, I get it. Fashion emergencies can be lethal." She smiled, relieved, thought she won. She didn't see the flicker behind my eyes, the one that said, noted, logged, indexed. Later that night, after she snored her way into a dreamless sleep, melatonin gummies and white wine will do that, I walked into the den, turned on the desk lamp, and sat down in front of our shared iMac. She thinks I'm a systems guy, like I just reset routers and update antivirus software. What she forgets is I built cloud security protocols for 3 of the top 5 pharmaceutical companies in the country, and she used her work email to register a backup drive. Sloppy, the cloud had a new private album, hidden, named Ideas. It was locked, but her passwords have always been sentimental garbage. Dog names, high school mascots, our anniversary when she remembers it. I tried the cat's name, Pepper. Unlocked. First image, her in black lace, posing in front of our bathroom mirror, hand on hip, mouth slightly open. Not for me. Never for me. Second image, same pose, same tray. This time at her office, reflected in a glass wall I recognized from her floor. Third, a dressing room selfie, captioned, "Do you think my boss will notice?" Comments below. From D, her ex from college. "If he doesn't, he's blind. You're lethal." There were 23 photos total, all recent, all curated, some taken during work hours, if the EXIF data was correct. And it was. People really underestimate metadata. I didn't throw the computer, didn't scream. I sat back, stared at the wall, and pulled a yellow legal pad from the drawer. On the top line I wrote, "Timeline. Let her think I'm passive. Let her think I'm slow to react. What she doesn't understand is that I don't react. I respond. And every response has layers." Let's get one thing clear. I wasn't heartbroken. That would have required me still holding on to the illusion she was ever emotionally present over the last few years. I was focused. And in that focus, something else crept in. Opportunity. Because here's what Krista forgot. When you dress betrayal in silk and smile through it, people don't always notice until you hang it up in the wrong closet. She made a mistake, not just in action, but in underestimating someone who's been quietly watching her pattern for over 2 decades. Systems people, we live in patterns. And I'd been watching hers evolve. Sloppier, brazen, amateur-level covert behavior. Emotional breadcrumbs smeared all over digital devices like fingerprints on a crime scene. And if you've read this far, don't forget to hit follow. Seriously, more than 90% of you don't. But when you do, it motivates the team behind this to keep going. Harder, sharper, meaner. Krista's mistake wasn't sleeping with her ex. It was assuming I'd play the same role I always had. The dependable husband who ignores red flags because marriage is hard, and we all get a little flirty sometimes. No, marriage is work. But this wasn't flirtation. This was choreography. Deliberate, styled, and rehearsed for someone else's eyes. In heels, I paid for. So I started cataloging, not out of spite, but out of habit. Cross-referencing timestamps, Venmo payments to a generic Dale account, GPS pings from dressing rooms far from the office she claimed to be trapped in late, even a few voice memos buried in her deleted folders, little breathing exercises she'd recorded before going to meet him, probably to steady her nerves or psych herself up. One even said, "Okay, you got this. Be bold. You're not just some housewife anymore. No, Krista, you're not. You're a walking HR violation. And I'm going to introduce you to the consequences of filing your lingerie under professional development. The fifth photo in the album was taken at her office desk, keyboard pushed aside, blouse unbuttoned to the sternum, lace peeking out like a sales pitch. The title she gave it, Power Lunch. The next one was in a department store dressing room. She's half turned, holding a hanger with one hand and snapping the photo with the other. No bra. The caption, boardroom or bedroom. And then came the comments. From D, of course, Dale, the charming ex with a jawline carved out of Krista's nostalgia and a resume full of half-finished ventures. This one's lethal, he'd written under the third image. If your boss doesn't promote you after this outfit, I'll file the complaint myself. Somewhere between that message and the one where he rated her 9.7, because I know what a 10 looks like in person, I closed the laptop, not out of shock, out of disgust, not even at her exactly, at how predictable it all was. Krista always needed an audience. She couldn't buy a lamp without needing 10 opinions. Couldn't wear a dress unless someone confirmed it made a statement. The fact that she was now outsourcing that ego inflation to a man whose most successful venture was a Kickstarter for eco-friendly leather belts, that stung. Not emotionally, strategically. She was stupid, and she was gambling with a career I helped her build, but she thought I was the soft one, so I opened a fresh notebook. Legal pad, always yellow, top line, timeline. Every system failure starts with a flaw in the pattern, and I just found hers. I started jotting. 8:43 p.m. Photo upload. EXIF confirms, taken in downtown dressing room. 8:51 p.m. Comment from D, IP ping from Atlanta. 9:12 p.m. She comes home, says traffic was a nightmare. You didn't eat without me, right? 9:13 p.m. We reheat leftovers. She's wearing the same lipstick as the photo. I kept going. 2 weeks ago, expense flagged on our joint card, $412 at Lace and Form. Claimed it was for blazers. That same night, uploaded photo titled Structured Seduction. Venmo entry to Dale James labeled coffee. 60. Who the hell drinks $65 of coffee? This wasn't just emotional cheating. This was performance art, sponsored by company time and mutual funds. But here's the thing. I wasn't interested in playing the humiliated husband. That archetype is tired. No, I was building a case study. I was going to dissect this like a botnet infection, track its spread, map every contact point, expose its vulnerabilities. So I mirrored the album. Quietly. Pulled every image, comment, and timestamp into a secure drive. Set automated backups, nothing flashy, just thorough. Then I logged into our household tablet, hers, technically, synced to the same Apple ID. I cross-checked the image history. She'd viewed the lingerie photos 12 times over the past month, always at night, usually after she thought I was asleep, sometimes twice in one evening. I noticed something odd. 3 of the photos were taken at her office during supposed conference calls. One even had a whiteboard in the background. If I could enhance the contrast enough, I might catch client names. That wasn't just reckless, that was actionable. Then came the 6th image, the one that cracked it wide open. She's in the office kitchenette, tight pencil skirt, a fresh cup of coffee in hand. She's lifting her shirt just enough to show a garter strap, no caption. But the comment? Your boss is gonna faint, LOL. Hope he signs off on that bonus. And below that, another message from D. Remember our game at the lake house? Dare you to do it in the conference room. That's when I saw red. Not rage, not betrayal. Just a bright, pulsing clarity. This wasn't flirting. This was a live wire snaking through her entire professional life, just waiting for the right power surge to explode. And I wasn't going to cut the wire. I was going to hand it to someone in gloves and watch what happened when it lit the building up from the inside. But first, I needed leverage, so I started mapping her company's code of conduct, remote access privileges, device usage clauses. I read the fine print on her employee agreement like it was scripture, and I found it. Section 6.4, use of company resources for personal media distribution. Bingo, they wouldn't fire her for being a narcissist with poor impulse control, but they might fire her for staging OnlyFans previews on company time using company Wi-Fi while giggling with an ex who definitely wasn't vetted for NDA compliance. She had a file. Now, so did I. And the best part? She'd never see me coming. Because when someone's performing for applause, they never notice the janitor in the back row, quietly taking notes. They forget janitors sometimes own the building. The next morning, she left the house in a tailored blazer and heels I hadn't seen before, black with a gold zipper along the back, just gaudy enough to get noticed by someone who never looked down. She paused at the door, blew me a kiss. Wish me luck. Big presentation today. I smiled. Knock 'em dead. She thought I meant it. I waited until the front gate clicked shut behind her before opening the laptop again. This time, I wasn't browsing. I was extracting. The cloud album gave me the what. Now I wanted the when, the where, the why, and especially the how. Stupid do you have to be to use company Wi-Fi to cheat? I downloaded a forensic suite. Freeware mostly, but efficient. Started with the photos, each one time-stamped, geotagged, and blessedly careless. Most of them were taken during work hours. One was on a Sunday. That one bugged me. Sunday had been my mother's birthday. We had lunch. Krista bailed, said she had to prep for the Q4 deck. She was prepping, all right, just not for quarterly revenue. The image from that day, a full-length mirror selfie in our guest room, lace bra, new lighting rig in the background, ring light, soft diffuser. She'd moved my guitar to make room. It wasn't just a fling. It was production. I opened Venmo. She thought deleting the app hid the trail. It didn't. Web access is a magical thing. A recurring payment to Dale James, always on Thursdays, always with cheerful emojis. I screenshotted every single one, labeled them Thursday payments, 12-week spread. Then I checked her calendar invites. Team strategy sync, remote coaching, professional development call with DJ, who, hilariously, she tried to pass off once as Daniel Jeffers from onboarding. There's no Daniel Jeffers in her org chart. I checked. The deeper I went, the more it reeked of performance. Half the photos were clearly shot during Zoom meetings, her laptop open in the reflection, Slack notifications visible, our cat curled up behind her. One even had a post-it on the wall, remind Alan about car service. She was reminding herself to lie. Thoughtful. Then I found the voice memos, buried in a backup of her old phone, a graveyard of forgotten data. One recording stood out, titled, Before Call Final. She must have meant to delete it. Her voice, low, breathy. Hey, I'm wearing the red set, like you asked. If I look confident during this meeting, it's your fault. You made me feel like this, like a damn goddess. Click. Another one. Don't laugh, but I've been fantasizing about doing this in the break room, where the interns can't look away. God, you're so bad for me. That's when I paused, not because I was hurt. That ship had sailed the second she started staging fantasy shoots during quarterly budget calls. No, I paused because I realized something far more delicious. She wasn't just cheating, she was turning her job into foreplay. He was coaching her, hyping her, using her workplace like a stage for their little drama, and she was loving it. Because why settle for being an employee when you can be the main character? Every system leaves breadcrumbs. She just forgot I'm the guy who reads logs for a living. I printed screenshots, marked them up, tracked IP addresses, created a heat map of her device locations, where the photos were taken, where the messages were sent, where the payments landed. One pattern kept repeating. Thursday night, strategy sync, followed by Friday morning presentation prep, which always led to late Friday returns, flushed cheeks, and clothes that smelled like hotel soap. I stapled the timelines to a manila folder, labeled it Performance Review Krista J. The irony made me chuckle. Over the next week, I let her routine continue uninterrupted. She left every morning like a polished weapon, aimed at a paycheck and sharpened by attention. She texted him on our porch, standing 5 feet from my begonias. I kept watering them, quietly. At night, she curled up beside me in our bed, scrolling through her photos, giggling under the blanket. I pretended to snore. I started writing timestamps in the notebook while she showered, keeping the pattern tight. She had no idea, because the truth is, when people feel clever, they don't look over their shoulder. They look in the mirror, and Krista loved what she saw in that mirror, just not enough to wonder who was holding it up. Marie picked up on the third ring, same clip tone as ever. I used to joke she could fire you with a smile and make you thank her on the way out. She hadn't changed. Alan, she said. Wow, it's been... Jesus, what, 15 years? 17, I said, since the merger audit. She laughed. Right, God, we were buried in compliance reports for 6 months. What's this about? I paused. No pleasantries, no warm-up. I need to send an email, I said. To the wrong inbox. There was a silence. Not confusion. Calculation. Marie's good at knowing when she's being asked for something sharp. Finally, wrong inbox on purpose? Exactly. Whose? I gave her the name. Krista J., my wife. Marie didn't gasp or whisper or pretend to be shocked. She just went still, like a mechanic hearing a knock in the engine she's known was coming for a while. You know what happens next if I don't flag it as a mistake, she said. I do. She let out a long breath. It'll take one click, but if it moves past preliminary, it's not coming back. That's the idea. She was quiet again, then added, you know she always looked down on policy people like me, right? Called us the fun police. Said it jokingly, but you could tell. Yeah, I know. Okay, Marie said, then make it count. I opened a new draft. Plain white background. No logos. Just the bones. Subject, work apparel advice. Body. Hey Krista, I found these helpful for your upcoming presentation. Might help secure that promotion. Thought you'd want a second opinion. Let me know what Dale thinks. Alan. I attached one photo, not the most explicit, not the one with the garter or the red lace or the hand pressed to the glass wall of her office. No, this one was subtle, quiet, deceptively corporate. She was in a blazer, nothing underneath, tilted toward the camera just enough that the curve of her breast pulled attention. One hand on her hip, professional lighting, office window behind her. If you glanced quickly, it could have passed for LinkedIn. If you looked twice, you'd see it for what it was. Lingerie in sheep's clothing. The file name? Meeting Ready JPG. One recipient, the shared HR complaints inbox. A black hole for policy violations. Anonymous tips. Conduct flags. I didn't send it right away. I scheduled it. 9:03 a.m. That was the moment her team's morning sync usually ended. The inbox would be empty. The HR team would be sipping coffee, scanning flags, still quiet from their commutes. Nothing urgent would be in queue yet, nothing to distract from a subject line that looked like routine inter-office banter until they opened it. Krista would be in her office. Door closed, probably mid-flirt with Dale over Slack. That's when the ping would land. Marie would see it first. She wouldn't speak. She'd forward it to compliance. They'd loop in legal. They'd open her system records, confirm device usage, review timestamps, pull chat logs. I'd seen it happen before, like a drip becoming a flood. I knew the process well. I helped write half of it in a different industry, different faces, same rules. The precision of it all didn't feel like revenge. It felt like engineering. I closed the draft and set the timer. Back in the kitchen, Krista was making avocado toast and singing softly to herself. She had no idea she was on a ticking clock. She turned, knife in hand. Hey babe, can you believe this? Dale says I should try that green wrap dress today. You think it's too bold for the office? Hard to say, I replied. You're the expert on work attire now. She laughed. He just has a good eye. Nothing weird. No, I said, sipping my coffee. Totally normal. She walked out the door 10 minutes later, dress zipped, phone in hand, still texting. At 8:58, I walked back to the computer. At 9:03, the email fired itself into the system. No turning back. Not that I wanted to. I leaned back in the chair and looked out the window. The neighbor's dog barked at a squirrel. The mail truck passed by. Somewhere downtown, Krista was about to be called into a meeting. She thought the spotlight made her untouchable. She forgot who built the fuse box. That morning, Krista floated out the door like she'd already nailed the promotion. Her blowout was fresh, ends curled just enough to say effortless, makeup sharp enough to carve through anyone who questioned her. She wore the green wrap dress, the one Dale loved, said it made her look like someone who made decisions for weaker men. Her words, not mine. I stood at the sink, rinsing out my coffee mug, watching her reflection in the hallway mirror as she adjusted her neckline. She didn't say goodbye, just hummed something upbeat and left. The door clicked behind her, final in a way she didn't understand yet. I went to the study, sat down, opened the laptop, logged into a secure session. Marie had said she'd keep me in the loop. She did. At 9:22 a.m., the internal Slack lit up. Holy saint, is this real? Please tell me that wasn't sent to HR. Wait, isn't that the guy from her college stories? Dale something? A screenshot of the photo was circulating, blurred, anonymized, but in their office there's no such thing as privacy once compliance gets involved. Someone had already recognized the background as their shared kitchenette. Someone else noted the timestamp, 9:03, on the dot. The message had hit the HR complaints inbox like a hand grenade in a glass factory. Formal procedures followed, a flagged conduct warning, auto-log device trace, employee record pulled from archive, privileges restricted, pending internal review. By 10:41, Marie messaged me privately. They opened a complaint file. Official. Legal's on it. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The fan hummed softly. I could almost hear the temperature in Krista's world dropping by the minute. At 11:57 a.m., Marie sent one more update. She's being pulled into a meeting after lunch. She doesn't know why yet. It's marked as a policy clarification sit down. That's code for buckle up. Krista texted me at 12:04. Krista, hey, can you talk? A few seconds later, Krista, weird thing happened. I think something's going around. Just need to clear my head. Can you pick up? I looked at the screen for a long moment, then typed me. Later. No punctuation, just the weight of finality. I wanted her to feel the distance. Not anger, not coldness, just silence, the kind you can't fill with charm or damage control. She tried again at 12:07. Krista, you're scaring me. What's going on? I didn't answer. She wasn't scared yet, not really. Right now she was squinting at shadows, thinking maybe she left something open on her phone, or maybe someone saw something they weren't supposed to. Her ego wouldn't let her go straight to panic, not yet, but I knew what was waiting on the other side of that conference room door. A printed image, the metadata, her own name on the device audit trail, and probably at the head of the table, one senior HR officer doing their best neutral investigator expression while the legal counsel sat beside them, flipping through pages like it was just another Tuesday. Krista would walk in with that nervous, rehearsed smile of hers, already working on how to spin it. It was a joke. Just a personal photo that got mixed up. My ex? Oh, he's just a style advisor. You should see his Instagram. She wouldn't realize, not right away, that no one was smiling back. She wouldn't realize that every nod, every pause, every pen scratching a note, those weren't signs of understanding. They were steps in a process. By 12:32, the chat went dead. Silence across the internal feed. A blackout, which meant one thing. The meeting had begun. I made a sandwich, nothing fancy. Turkey and Dijon, slice of tomato. Sat by the window while I ate, watching a bird claw at the grass. I wasn't jittery, I wasn't smug, I was still. The way someone is after finishing a long, methodical project, one you didn't want to do but needed done right. The pretense was over. For months, I let her play the lead in a drama I didn't audition for. I watched her act surprised at her own lies, giggle when caught, deflect, distract, seduce. She loved the show. She just forgot who set the stage. Let her sweat under office lights, wrapped in that green dress he picked out. Let her flounder when they asked what Power Lunch JP had to do with Q4 reporting. Let her watch the name Dale Jameson be written, underlined, and copied into an HR incident file with words like external influencer and inappropriate correspondence stapled to it. Let her realize it wasn't just her job on the line, it was her reputation. And in the end, I wouldn't even have to raise my voice. I'd already pressed send. Krista came through the front door like someone walking off a battlefield with a smile she forgot to take off. Hair limp, blazer creased at the elbows, eyes darting like she was expecting a camera flash or a tripwire in the foyer. She dropped her bag in the wrong place, by the umbrella stand instead of the coat rack. That told me everything I needed to know. I was already in the study, not hiding, just available, like a witness with a front row seat. She didn't say hello, just stood there for a beat too long, then muttered, "Someone hacked my phone." I swiveled in my chair, raised an eyebrow. "That's serious? Should probably tell your IT team." She blinked, processing, then nodded too quickly, like someone agreeing to something they hadn't heard. I turned back to my monitor, watched her reflection in the glass, shoulders tense, feet shifting, fingers twitching at her sides. She picked up her phone. walked into the living room, sat, immediately started dialing. Her voice, low but frantic, carried through the thin walls. Yeah, I don't know how it got out. No, I didn't send that to HR. No, listen. It wasn't from my work email. Pause. No, it wasn't my personal either. That's what I'm saying. It was private. Dee didn't send it either. He's freaking out too. Another pause, longer this time, then her voice dropped even lower. They're saying the file came from an internal device. That's not possible. I didn't send anything to the complaints inbox. That's not even in my contacts. That was the moment she realized someone had guided it, not leaked, planted. And it wasn't her precious Dale. That boy could barely hold down a Wi-Fi signal, let alone orchestrate a corporate scandal. She made 5 more calls over the next hour, one to Dale, one to her work laptop's manufacturer support line, which she cut off after being put on hold, one to a girlfriend she whispered to like they were plotting a jailbreak, one to someone I could tell by the technical language she tried and failed to use, and one silent call to her voicemail which she checked, then deleted in a flurry of taps. From the study, I watched the digital storm begin. Marie sent me a secure message. Internal audit started. They're pulling all Slack history, device logs, email metadata. It's not about what she sent anymore. It's about how often, from where, and to who. I asked, is she still pretending it's a one-time mistake? Marie replied, she was, not anymore. We flagged at least 12 photos taken on company time. At least 3 were uploaded through the VPN. She used company devices, even labeled one of the folders presentation concepts. That made me laugh. Marie added, so far, 2 policy violations confirmed, one under IT acceptable use, another under professional conduct, legal's prepping notes. If they bring in external counsel, it's over. Krista stormed past the study twice, once to grab a bottle of water she didn't open, once to pretend she needed something from her bag. Each time, she glanced in, but didn't speak. I watched the tension harden her face, saw her world shift from offense to defense. For the first time in months, she wasn't rehearsing a line or curating an outfit. She was bleeding control, and she knew it. Her phone buzzed again. She answered with a shaky hello, and then, no, I didn't send the red one. That wasn't for work. That was silence. Then, yes, I understand. No, yes, I can attend. Just send the link. A new meeting. Not voluntary. She ended the call and sat at the kitchen table for a long time, not moving. I didn't go to her. That's not what this version of me does. I just watched, curious. You see, when someone lies long enough, they forget how to breathe without performing. But this wasn't performance anymore. This was discovery, and discovery is merciless. She had 2 open bottles of water by the end of the night, both untouched, her phone face down, her eyes wide, the kind of wide where you see your own destruction reflected in your mind's eye before it lands in your inbox. I got one last message from Marie before logging off for the evening. Next step is legal, external. No drama, no all caps, just the quiet inevitability of a machine doing exactly what it was designed to do. Krista tried to speak once before bed, stood at the bedroom door, mouth half open. I looked up from my book, gave her the smallest nod. Everything all right? She closed her mouth, swallowed. Yeah, just tired. Long day. Yeah. I watched her crawl into bed, curling in on herself, spine facing me. She didn't reach for her phone this time. She knew better. The calendar invite landed in her inbox at 7:18 a.m. sharp. The subject line was sterile, the kind that feels surgical even before you open it. Compliance review. Alleged misuse of devices and conduct. No emojis, no explanation, no out. Krista read it while brushing her teeth, toothbrush in one hand, phone in the other. I watched her from the hallway mirror, caught the flicker of confusion, then fear, then the smug mask sliding into place. She told herself she could talk her way out of this. I could see it. She dressed differently that day. Gray flats, no heels, black slacks, a simple blouse, neckline high enough to scream professional but still fitted, like she couldn't help herself. No makeup, no jewelry, just damage control. I asked casually, not wearing the green dress today? She didn't answer, just smoothed her pants, grabbed her laptop and said, I have a compliance thing. Some idiot flagged a photo. It's nothing. I'll handle it. I nodded. Of course. In her mind, she was still ahead, still the main character, still just one good explanation away from resetting the board. She forgot that the game had changed. She wasn't playing chess anymore. She was standing in the middle of a forensic audit, and she was the exhibit. She arrived 10 minutes early. Classic Krista move. Beat them to the room, control the narrative. But when she opened the door, she stopped cold. The table wasn't empty. Two people already sat at the far end, one in a charcoal suit, Amanda Bryce, board counsel, crisp and unreadable. The other, William Fang, corporate legal, older, slower, but known for asking one question that detonates everything. Krista stepped in with a tight smile. "Good morning." They responded. On the table were three things: a printed stack of photos, color, high quality, her signed Employee Tech Usage Agreement, a copy of Section 6.4 highlighted in pink, personal media content created or transmitted during work hours using company systems constitutes a breach of data integrity protocol. She sat. Amanda started. "We'll be recording. You're not under disciplinary action yet." Krista nodded, swallowed. William adjusted his glasses, took a breath like he was about to order soup.
Instead, he said, "Do you consider lingerie photos part of a remote work uniform?" Krista's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just a tiny exhale. She blinked twice. Amanda slid the first photo forward, the blazer shot, the one with the window in the background and her fingers teasing the lapel open. There was a sticky note on it in blue ink, Presentation Concepts folder, 2:18 p.m., VPN logged in. Krista reached for it, then froze. "That wasn't meant for—" "We know," Amanda said. "That's why we're here." They let the silence sit. William clicked a pen. Krista adjusted her sleeves. Then William continued softly. "This image was uploaded from a device tied to your user credentials on company Wi-Fi during a scheduled leadership call. The metadata confirms time, date, and system. Your laptop. Issued by us. Do you dispute that?" Krista's mouth tried a sentence, failed, and landed on, "It's complicated." Amanda didn't blink. "It's binary." Next came the dressing room selfie, then the red set, then the one in the break room, which had a sticky note reading 8:43 a.m., executive floor, kitchenette, not on break. Krista leaned back, her eyes glassed over. She was searching for a lifeline and finding receipts instead. William flipped the final page, her signature on the acceptable use policy. "We're obligated to escalate this," he said, "per protocol." Krista finally spoke. "This is a misunderstanding. Those were private. I didn't send them to anyone here." Amanda leaned forward for the first time. "But you took them, on company time, using our systems, for someone outside the organization, during work-related meetings. Is any of that incorrect?" She didn't answer, just stared at the table like it might forgive her. William continued, gentler this time. "The question isn't about morality, Ms. Jensen. It's about misuse of access. You used us to stage content for an outside party, on our clock, using our infrastructure." He pushed a final page forward. Her Slack logs. Multiple messages with attachments, private channels, emojis that didn't belong in quarterly forecasts. Krista didn't cry. Not yet. She didn't protest. Not convincingly. She just asked, "What happens now?" Amanda replied, "This is a preliminary compliance session. The findings will be forwarded to executive review and legal. We'll also need to inform cybersecurity. External counsel will likely be consulted." Dia paused. "Do you have anything to say on record?" Krista opened her mouth, then shut it. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't think anyone would, notice." William nodded once. They usually don't, until they do. They dismissed her, politely, professionally. She left the room not as a storm, but as fog, aimless, shapeless, slow to clear. She texted me from the parking garage. "Krista, call me." I didn't respond. She needed silence more than she needed sympathy. She came home late that evening, walking like someone who wasn't sure the floor would stay solid beneath her next step. The same wrap blouse she wore that morning now clung to her like a bad decision. She dropped her purse on the kitchen table and stood there for a long moment, not moving. I was already cooking. Salmon, seared just the way she liked it, steamed asparagus, skin on mashed potatoes, a splash of garlic butter, wine but only half a glass. She didn't deserve the full pour, but I wasn't here to gloat. This wasn't a victory dinner.
It was the curtain call. She sat across from me, didn't touch the food, just picked at a napkin, unraveling it thread by thread. "You cooked," she said, voice smaller than usual. "Special occasion." She flinched but didn't ask. I offered her the butter. She waved it away. We ate, or rather I did. She moved things around on her plate like she was afraid of them. Occasionally she glanced toward her office down the hall, then back to her plate, then back to the hall again. Her phone buzzed once. She ignored it. After dinner, she stood and took her glass with her. Not a word. She walked into the office, opened her laptop, and powered it up. I followed her silently. Didn't enter the room. Just leaned against the doorframe and waited. The boot up was quick. She opened her desktop. Froze. Right there, dead center, was a new folder. Exit file. She didn't open it right away. Her mouse hovered. Then, with the slow dread of a woman realizing the trap she stepped in wasn't accidental, she double-clicked. Inside. Screenshots, dozens. Every photo, every message, each one stamped with metadata. Her own Slack logs, calendar entries overlaid with timestamps from the image files, transcripts, pulled audio files, her voice in her own words, the lingerie descriptions, the private fantasies turned workday interludes. She'd deleted them months ago. I hadn't. Draft. Krista J. Resignation DocX written in her voice. Passive tone. No admission. Just enough shame to be real. Separation of property. Preliminary 1 page. Plain. Fair. Generous even. Clearly dated. Clearly notarized. She sat back in her chair, not moving, barely breathing. Her fingers twitched over the trackpad, but didn't click again. I stepped inside the office. She didn't look at me, just stared at the screen. "Why?" she asked. Not a scream, not a whisper, just flat, like the word had fallen out of her. I took my time answering. "Because you sent him the photos," I said calmly, "but I sent them to your employer." She turned then, slowly, her eyes wide, rimmed with the red of someone who'd already spent an afternoon blinking back tears in front of people paid to stay professional. You did this?" "No," I said, "you did this. I just helped your employer see it in focus." She stood up suddenly, like she could outrun it, then stopped herself, realized there was nowhere to go. "You ruined me," she whispered. "No," I replied. "I removed the mask. You wore it too long anyway." She took a step forward. Her voice rose for the first time. "Do you have any idea what this will do to my reputation?" I shrugged. "I imagine it'll feel a lot like what it did to mine, watching you parade yourself like office lingerie was part of your LinkedIn package." She flinched again. "You went through my files," she said, "and you used company bandwidth to cheat on your husband with an ex who writes fashion tips like he's running a lifestyle blog for divorcees with a felony," I replied. Don't act shocked that someone finally read the fine print. The silence that followed wasn't tense. It was heavy, like the aftermath of something large falling into a quiet room. Her laptop dinged. Another calendar invite. Probably another meeting she wasn't expecting. She didn't open it. Instead, she whispered, "So this is it?" "No," I said. "This is the documentation before it." Then I turned and walked out, leaving her there in the glow of a monitor filled with the receipts she'd thought no one would ever collect. The same woman who used to laugh at me for being methodical. "You're always overthinking," she once said. "Nothing's that calculated." She was right about one thing. Not everything is calculated. But this was. Krista's boss called her in at 9:02 a.m. sharp. She'd already been in the office for 20 minutes. Parked in her car, rehearsing lines that sounded like apologies but weren't. Her makeup was subtle again. Foundation thick enough to hide the damage, lipstick neutral, like she thought humility could be painted on. But the shoes betrayed her. Cheap black flats, unpolished, the kind you wear when you're hoping not to be noticed. When she walked into her manager's office, she smiled. A crackling, brittle smile. The kind you offer when you know the walls are already caving in. "Thanks for meeting me," she started. "I know there's been confusion." Her boss, Daniel Withers, didn't smile back. Mid-50s, HR's lapdog on Tuesdays, loyal to the org chart the rest of the week. His hands were folded. No laptop, no coffee. Just a printed manila folder on the table between them, closed but radiating judgment.
We've completed the preliminary investigation, he said flatly. She swallowed. And? Daniel didn't soften. There's been confirmed misuse of company resources, inappropriate content creation during work hours, and conduct unbecoming of your role. We've documented device activity, message logs. You understand where this puts us. She nodded quickly, then said, Look, I understand things got blurred. I'll own that. I never meant to involve the company. That was never the intent. We're not assessing intent. We're assessing impact. That's when she panicked. I can take a leave, she said, unpaid if needed, or move to another department, even part-time. Just don't make this formal. I've worked here 8 years. You know my record. Daniel gave a tight, emotionless nod, and this conversation is part of that record now. She tried one more time. I'll sign anything you need. Just don't end it like this, please. For a moment, he stared at her like he might budge, but he didn't. You're being placed on unpaid leave pending executive review, he said. Effective immediately. All access will be restricted within the hour. You'll be contacted once a final determination is made. She didn't cry, not in front of him. She nodded once, took the exit file with shaking hands, walked out slower than she'd entered, like gravity had gotten stronger inside that room. By the time she got back to her car, her phone had lit up twice, and first from Dale. Dale, I can't, I'm out. You brought me into this mess, and now it's everywhere. I'm sorry. Blocked, no follow-up, no call, no emoji, just silence. The second was her mother. Mom, Krista, why is your name on Reddit? People are messaging me. What happened? She didn't reply to either. She just threw her phone into the passenger seat like it burned her. At home, the kitchen was quiet. I'd already cleared out the coffee maker, the good olive oil, and the spare keys. I left behind a note she never found, folded under the coffee table coaster. Not a goodbye, just an inventory list. One line read, took only what belonged to me. I was upstairs, zipping up the duffel when she came through the door. She didn't say anything, just stood there, eyes wide, trying to read my posture. Not with suspicion, those days were gone. With fear, the kind that comes when the lies have collapsed and all that's left is the slow horror of public consequence. You're leaving? She asked. I didn't stop packing. Just for a bit. Where? Out. Can we talk? I zipped the bag shut and turned to face her. I think we did, I said. You just didn't realize it at the time. Her face cracked then. Not tears, not yet. Just the trembling collapse of someone who's no longer able to pretend she holds any cards. She stepped forward, arms slightly out, but then thought better of it and dropped them. You didn't have to go nuclear. I tilted my head. Didn't have to stage photos in the break room either. But here we are. She flinched, took a breath. People at work? They're talking like I'm toxic. You are, Krista. You just thought toxicity only mattered if it was on a spreadsheet. I slung the bag over my shoulder and walked past her. She stood in the doorway, stunned. The last thing I heard before the door shut behind me was her phone vibrating again. Another notification, another post, another dent in the image she built. This time, the audience wasn't just me, it was everyone. Krista didn't check her email right away, not after I left, not even the next morning. She sat with her phone face down on the coffee table for hours, like it was a bomb she wasn't brave enough to disarm. She moved through the house like a ghost, avoiding rooms she'd once filled with staged laughter and curated grace. She couldn't bring herself to enter the guest room, where half the photos were taken. The office was worse. Every time she walked past it, she looked down, as if the floor might pull her in. It wasn't until mid-afternoon that she finally opened her laptop, battery low, fan wheezing, but it booted up. Her inbox pinged with one new message. No subject, no sender she didn't recognize, just Alan. She stared at it for nearly a minute, mouse hovering. Then she clicked. Inside one photo, her dining table. The same one where she used to text Dale under the napkin while I served the wine. Same one where she giggled at outfit advice with sauce on her plate and her phone in her lap. Same one where I once bought her a small bouquet on a random Tuesday just to see her smile. Now it had 2 place settings. One untouched. His seat, my seat, was empty. Below it, a single line. I'd have stayed even with the truth, but not with the performance. That's when she stopped breathing for a second. She sat there, frozen, the cursor blinking at the end of the sentence like a heartbeat. No threats, no drama, no requests for closure, just truth, sharp and clean. She scrolled instinctively, expecting more.
There wasn't. So she opened her sent folder, the one she had so carefully curated, deleted, filtered, lied through. She searched for his name. My name, nothing obvious. She typed Dale. Dozens. She typed ideas. 14 matches. She clicked through each, hoping for a technicality, a loophole, a way to say, it wasn't cheating, it was art, or you misunderstood. But then she saw it, the overlap, the timestamp on the red set, the metadata, the Slack messages she thought were funny, the coffee emojis, the styling tips, the breathy voice notes, the lies about strategy calls, the smirks over appetizers, the wrap dress, the green heels, and she understood he hadn't just seen the photos, he saw the curation, the control, the performance. He saw her, the version she tried to be for someone else while making her husband invisible. But he wasn't. He was watching, always watching, not out of weakness, out of precision. She'd spent so long pretending to be something that looked powerful, seductive, desirable, and all it took to dismantle it was one image, an empty chair, a table still set for two, and the sentence that cut deeper than any accusation ever could. Krista closed the laptop. The house was dead quiet. No ping from Dale, no email from HR, no voicemail from her mother. Just the weight of a silence she'd once mistaken for safety. Now it echoed like a verdict. She walked to the table, stared at the place where he used to sit, then lowered herself into the empty chair across from it. The plate in front of her was spotless. She didn't cry, not at first, but eventually the tears came. Slow, deliberate, the kind you can't take back. And take.